I'm asking about people who, let's just say people who pray 5 times a day. Okay? So people who pray 5 times a day, out of the 1% of Muslims in America, would you say most pray 5 times a day? Most don't pray 5 times a day? Or it's like 50-50 approximately in the middle, kind of somewhere?
50-50.
Oh, you're okay. Oh, okay. Huh? Okay, you think most are Eid only Muslims? Minority? Okay, so then if it's the minority, which it is statistically, then what ends up happening is that, what's the word? Practicing, committed, I don't know. Let's say 5 prayer Muslims are minority. Okay? So what ends up happening, potentially we can explore this, is that since they're a minority and they're looking for someone who falls in the same category, their pool gets shrunk a lot more than other people who may, for example, have no issue with drinking alcohol. They may have no issue with doing other things. They still identify as Muslim, but their pool gets shrunk a lot more. Okay, so that's a good point. So let's take Southern California. Out of Southern California, let's just look at people who attend Friday prayer. Okay, as an example. The people who attend Friday prayer, does anyone know what the estimates are for the amount of Muslims in Southern California versus the percentage that actually attend a Friday prayer? And the estimate for that. Is it 90% of Muslims in Southern California attend Friday prayer? 50% of Muslims in Southern California attend Friday prayer? 10% of Muslims attend Friday prayer?
10%. 5%.
7%.
Malik.
It's about 10%. Okay? 10%. So 10% of the people who should be praying, basically, Friday prayer. So 10% attend from the Muslim population. Whoever, actually counting men and women both. So 10%. So what ends up happening is now, the 10% who want to get married, most likely, let's assume that they don't want to marry among the 90% because they don't even attend Friday prayer. So what ends up happening, or ever basically, they really don't attend. So what ends up happening is now their pool gets shrunk to 10%. So now they are looking for those specific 10%. So it becomes more challenging, so the pool goes smaller and smaller. Okay? So that's an important thing. And then when we talk about solutions, we're going to talk about how do you incorporate that into the internet services, into the anti-matchmaking services, and into all of the other things. How do you actually ask for religiosity in terms of your level of religiosity if you're searching for something like that, right? And how do you do that? And to what extent do you do that? And to what extent do you measure or weigh what people are interested in? So I'm going to talk about that in a little bit when we get there. Let's continue with some problems. Yes?
So I just wanted to extend on the religiosity one, because what I hear from a few of my friends is, it's kind of, no offense, but kind of what you did. It was like either 5 daily prayers or drinking. And there's a middle part where it's like, okay, maybe you don't do 5 daily prayers, but you're not.
But the Friday prayer,
Or Friday, I'm just saying, like, it's kind of a gray zone. Like, just because you don't do one doesn't mean you're okay with each other.
Right.
And I guess I'm just saying that's the problem. Sometimes it's hard to match that. It's hard to match with
So that's the thing. So how do we define religiosity, right? And how do we cater to people who are looking at different levels of religiosity, right? So that's what I wanted to talk about, is when you have an internet service or you have a matchmaking service, how do you specify what type of religiosity you're looking for, right? And that's important. That's a good point you brought up. And what happens is most people are looking for someone more religious, less religious, or equally religious to them. What would you say?
Equal.
So people are different, but usually they're looking for equal or more. And which one is more difficult? It's more difficult to find the one that's more. Because if the other person is looking for more, then you're gone. You've automatically been eliminated, right? So that becomes a challenge, right? So and this is part of the problem when it comes to either psychological baggage, or when it comes to the different types of being picky and the maturity, what ends up happening is a lot of people are looking for marriage as being a solution to their, where did the mommy thing go? Yeah. Looking for a solution to what the problem is in their life. So the guys who are spoiled, they're looking for someone to, handle everything so they can enjoy their childlike life, for example. And for other people, they're either looking, maybe if they're looking for finance, they're looking for that as a solution, or they're looking for, someone to motivate them and help them become better Muslims, or whatever else thing that they're looking for. Some people are trying to just live a very comfortable lifestyle and, all sorts of things. So good. These are all good points. What else? Yes.
The lack of venues for people to meet. I understand you have the aunties and
Yes.
the internet.
Yes.
The lack of venues. Southern California is so huge. There's not enough venues for people to meet. I think that's what's affecting this.
Venues. Okay. So let's take a look at the venues. Okay. So we have, what are the venues that exist for people to meet today? Currently? College.
That cuts out a certain population. That's only a certain
That'll cut off a very significant population.
ISNA.
ISNA, yeah. So ISNA has a marriage service. How many people end up going to ISNA marriage thing per year? No, and not just how many people go there per year? Who has seen? Yeah, you heard. Like, how many people show up? Like in? No, not to the conference, to the marriage part. Yeah. It's 500? 500, okay. Has anyone heard positive reviews about the ISNA service? Has anyone heard negative reviews about what happens in the ISNA service? Yes. Let's have a quick 30-second review of ISNA, please.
Okay.
Yes.
Of course.
Bismillah.
So I was the only white person in the entire building, and I had this dude sit in front of me who was like 19. He goes, "Sorry, I'm not interested." And I was like, "Oh my god, this is so horrible."
Yes.
It was the worst experience ever.
Yeah, worst experience ever. Okay, review number 1. Review number 2. Anyone else got a review? The ISNA conference. The reviews that I've heard. Okay, go ahead.
I think it was very civil. I mean, obviously it's random, so some people might like each other, some people might not. Christina, but it doesn't mean that it was a poorly done or poorly in poor taste in any way. I think it was very respectfully done.
Okay, respectfully done.
Yeah.
Are the people not clicking?
Yes.
Is it too many different cultures and too many
No, I
different
just
things
think
going on?
some. I think in our cultures, whether you're Arabi or you're Pakistani or you're Indian, you're always told to, don't talk to boys, don't talk to girls, and sometimes it becomes awkward for the women to talk or a man to talk to a woman, because it could be out of respect, it could be out of not knowing anything, or it could be out of preparation.
So 3 out of 5 star review, 4 out of 5 star.
I like it. 4 out of 5.
4 out of 5. That's a pretty good review. Alhamdulillah. Yes.
So usually the matrimonial event happens over the course of 2 days. So one of the events I attended the second day, and that day the receptionists they're telling every woman that this time around, since it's a speed dating type of thing, the women will have to move with their purses and bags and everything. And we were just asking them, usually the men move, so why are you making women move this time around? So they're like, oh, there was an incident yesterday. And what was the incident? The incident was that there were men skipping women.
They were skipping. Oh, you're supposed to go in line, and they just skipped them.
Yeah, they're just like, they would not even sit for those 3 minutes. So it comes down to etiquettes of how can you not be kind to another human being for 3 minutes. So what happened, what really, really upset me, that so you're basically accommodating men like that by changing the women the next day. Go ahead and women should move around instead of men.
Okay, that was unfair accommodation for men over the women doing that thing. Okay, so 1 out of 5 stars.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So I've also got other reviews from people, like there's a bunch of parents that are standing outside and they're basically kicking their children to go inside and figure out a way to get married, and they're not interested in getting married. And that feeds back into another issue. So we got 2 issues. We got the issue of these are people who want to get married, but they can't get married. There's another problem of people who don't want to get married, and they're simply not interested in marriage at all until maybe they hit like 35 or 30 or something like that. So that's a different issue, but that's what I've heard. It happens over there as well. Other feedback?
Well, I just wanted to point out both of your comments because that actually is a bigger problem. So for you saying, yeah, you know, I think Hassan Minaj said it, that you're raised to not talk to the opposite gender, and then suddenly, boom, why are you not married? And I think there is a lack of charisma and like chemistry and talking to somebody.
Do you think that the majority of attendees, I'm asking a question, do you think the majority of attendees at ISNA were raised to not talk to the opposite gender?
So I haven't been, I don't know, but
Okay.
I'm just saying what I hear from people.
Okay, okay. So I want to ask people who've been there. What do you think?
I have, they're not. The vast majority of them are extremely liberal and malignant to drinking, clubbing, and all kinds of stuff.
Okay, so she says no, they admit to, and ISNA has that reputation for the club ISNA portion. You guys heard of that, right? So yeah, so I mean, generally, the people who attend ISNA, at least, they're not like ultra conservative. They're not being raised, not talking to the opposite gender. So I don't think that's really the issue here, at least not in a venue like ISNA. And I think basically people who are raised, this is my opinion, people who are raised in a certain way of not talking to the opposite gender, they're not likely to make it to these venues that are matchmaking venues because they're very conservative families. So they're generally quite comfortable talking with the opposite gender if they're going to make it to this venue, usually for the most part. Okay, good. So that's ISNA review. We were talking about venues. So this is not to put ISNA down, you know, alhamdulillah, I guess they're trying. They can try harder. But what other venues exist? Yes.
Has events that are pretty good.
Hafardeen has events which are pretty good. How many people show up to those?
About 40 to 50, I would say.
40 to 50.
Yeah.
Good. Okay.
And they have circle tables where everyone is allowed to communicate with each other, and they have icebreaker games and things like that.
Right,
I
right.
think those are effective, and also meetup.com. There's
Okay.
a lady, I don't know if she's here today,
Hmm.
but this Pakistani woman hooked up this group together.
Hmm.
It's amazing, mashallah. I don't know how she does it, but
Okay.
anyways, they do like hiking trips, board game events, and things like that.
Okay. Okay. Very good. So there's some venues, but these venues are quite small. So in one locality, Hafardeen comes, we're looking at 40 to 50 people, which is it's well organized, like you're saying, but it's still quite small, right? So it's something that should be bigger. So we don't have that many people registering to come and attend these venues. Why do you think that is?
Fear.
Fear?
It's just uncomfortable. It's not natural.
Yeah, it's just uncomfortable. It's kind of weird. You're gonna, and then everyone's gonna like see you, and they'll be wondering like, what the heck? Oh, this person is doing that too. Yes.
It's also the cost. If you keep going to these events,
Oh,
one after
the
the
price
other,
adds up if
yeah,
you
they're
keep
like
on going.
75, 50, 100.
Right. Okay. So they can get expensive too. Yeah.
And after spending that amount of money, and you go to these events and they are not even well organized, so I would not want to go the second time.
Right. Right. So if it's not well organized, then you feel like you wasted your money and that's it. You're done, and you don't want to deal with it anymore. Okay. Very good. So we got lack of venues. Okay, and we're going to talk about a solution to this problem. Okay, anyone want to add something to this? Otherwise, we can start filling in the remarriage part. Yes.
I think older women in our community, so more older women in the community versus the little male population.
There are more older women.
There are fewer, I guess, yeah, older women, younger. Does that make sense? I don't know.
I'm not following.
The ratio.
The ratio, thank you.
Okay, the ratio of
I went to
men.
business school too.
All right, I'm doing that. So the ratio of
Yes.
men to women.
Yes.
So there's a lot more younger men and a lot more older women
Yeah.
in the Muslim community, you know?
Single older women.
Single older women.
I'll clarify, yeah.
Absolutely.
Especially at these like matchmaking events.
Oh, at the matchmaking events particularly. Okay. That helps clarify a lot. Okay. Why do you think that is? Who has a theory on why they think that is? Why do older women show up to these venues and younger men and not the same age matched men? Yeah. Is it all the young men got married and all the women didn't get married, so they ended up getting older? Is that what happened?
If you're asking for a theory.
I'm asking for a theory. Yeah, isn't it?
So I think a lot of the old women either have not been married. Have been married. And
They've been married. Okay.
And then a lot of the older men are actually getting married to women that are much younger than them.
Yeah.
So
Okay. So good. So older men are getting married to younger women, and a lot of the elder women have been married before, and they end up older. Sorry, older women have been married before, and that's why they're ending up with the thing. Okay.
Another theory that I wanted to add
Okay.
is career-oriented. A lot of females are career-oriented and men aren't.
Okay.
So they focus on making sure that their career is completed, they're doing their thing. When they come to get married, the men want females that are going to stay home, not necessarily have a career and not actually pursue whatever they're doing.
Okay. So women tend to be more career-oriented because of the independence thing, and then men are not as interested in them. Is it because men are not interested because they have a career, or because they don't want to give up their career?
It could be both.
It could be both.
Both.
Okay. What?
Both. And
Both.
also you mentioned the younger they not thinking about get married.
Yeah.
They get
Yeah, and the young people are
they
not.
want-
Yes.
That's
yeah.
the reason.
Right. That's the problem too. Yeah. So yeah. But we'll focus mostly on the people who are interested in getting married. So let's say the people who are interested in getting married, the women who are interested in getting married, they became career oriented. And is it that they did not want to get married because they were building their career? Or they were ready to get married but nobody wanted to marry them? Which one is it? Who
I
was
think it's the second one.
the second one?
Yeah, I think a lot of females are ready to get married.
Okay.
But when they come to approach somebody that's like wanting to get married male-wise, they're gonna sit there and like, I don't want to wait for you to finish your degree, or I don't want to wait until you finish your career.
Okay.
I want somebody that's ready now to have children and whatnot.
Okay. So they want to finish their degree. Okay, let's say their degree is finished, and that's definitely a very valid point. I see that a lot. What if their degree is finished and they've started their career and they want to get married at the start of their career? And they say, I'm interested in getting married. When men come along, do men say no to them because they're working? Or do men say no to them because they would want to delay children? Or do men say no, or do they say no to the men because they say, I still need another 5 years to get to mid-career level, and then I'll consider marriage?
Yeah, I think all of them.
All of the above. Which one is more? You're right, all of the above, because I see all of these things. Right? Yes.
Could I add something a little?
But you have to answer this question first. Before we lose it. Okay, all the women, mashallah, are talking. Brothers, you are part of this discussion as well. Alhamdulillah. And you need to talk, especially if you're one of the people who are trying to get married. Alright? Eventually you're going to have to learn to express that. Alright, Amr, go ahead.
I was just going to add, your specific question, or just add things?
No, my specific question first.
Well, I have an answer for that.
Okay. Anyone have an answer to my question? Does anyone even remember my question? No. Do you remember my question? Yes, we got one. Alhamdulillah.
I think it is a combination of the women not wanting to settle. I think it has to do with settling.
Okay, so it's the women not wanting to settle down. So even if they are interested, is that what you're saying? Oh, settle.
Yeah, like for example, you have women who are just now starting in their career. They're not interested in marrying right now because they want to become that CEO or
But
whatever they imagine.
Agreed. But we're talking specifically about the ones who want to marry. So they just started their career. The ones who want to marry, why are they not getting married? That's what we're trying to focus on.
Depends on what age.
No, because of age, they're young. They just finished their degree. They just got a job. How old are they when they finish their bachelor's degree? 20, 21, master's 22, right? You just get a job. You're 22. You want to get married. 22 is considered to be a very reasonable age for marriage. Why aren't they getting married?
Because success and power is more attractive to male than maturity.
Mm.
With women, youth, and all the other stuff is not as important, I think.
Okay, so success and power is more attractive in a male than youth and beauty, which is more attractive in a female. Okay, so the females who want to get married, what's the issue then, based upon what you said?
That 21-year-old's not as attractive because he's not established, he doesn't have.
We're talking about the women, though.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the 21-year-old that he's actually.
No, I'm talking about the 21-year-old woman who graduated with her degree, started her career, wants to get married, but for some reason she's not getting married. What's going on with her in the back, all the way in the back?
Okay, so there's a couple things that my friends and I talk about.
Yes.
One, we find that guys can be a little bit intimidated by women who are intelligent and accomplished, and that seems to be a problem. They're threatened.
Okay.
But also, there are a lot of women who want to get married and a lot of guys who are available, but you have to ask them why they're not marrying the available girls. Why are they so, like...
See, the problem is the men are not talking. They have nothing to say. Come on, guys.
So if you went on any of those websites,
yeah.
You search 18 to 24, all the girls are going to higher education, and they're there for like 5 or 7 years, and they don't work. So it's very unattractive because the man has to work and provide and stuff. So the guy's just like, you know what, I'll just come back later when they're finished.
Do the guys assume that they will have to pay off the loans for these master's degrees and stuff as well?
When you have a conversation, they're like, hey, when I marry you, I'm going to go to further school. So it's like, okay, who's going to pay for that?
Right. Okay. Okay. Good. You didn't hear what he said? Repeat what you said. Louder.
So like 18 to 24, all of them are...
So when you search online, 18 to 24, let's say guys are looking for 18 to 24, they put that in a search engine, they look at all the girls. What's going on with that?
They're all in school.
They're all in school.
And they're going for several years, like 5, 7 years.
And they're like on a long track for like the next 6 years they're going to be in school.
And then when you ask for marriage, and they're going to say, if you can pay for the school.
Or they have to wait for me to finish the whole thing. So when you ask and you're interested in them, they say, well, I need to finish my education first. So it's going to take it's going to take 3 years or 4 years, and maybe also in the back of the mind, the guy's thinking, oh, this is going to be a costly education, and it's going to be delayed. Either it's going to cost a lot, or it's going to be delayed. And then, of course, the issue happens is, let's say the guy is family-oriented, or he's child-oriented, and he's hoping to have a lot of children. What's going to end up happening is, let's say a woman goes and she's in her PhD program, or she's in medical school. Right? She's in medical school, she needs 5 more years to finish. The guy is interested now, he says, but you have to wait 5 years. So what's going to happen is, we're going to get nikah done, we're going to get the marriage contract done, but I'm going to be in medical school for 5 years. And we're not going to be able to live together until I'm done. And then after I'm done, imagine what her life is going to be like. She's going to be extremely busy, and he's going to also be thinking, oh, this is going to cost a lot of money. In terms of the medical bill, school bills and all that stuff. And if I want to have kids, not only do I have to wait, but someone who put all this time and effort into education, is she supposed to just give it all up and become like a mother who's having one kid after another for like the next 10 years, and then she starts practicing afterwards again? That becomes a problem, because there's a battle between how do you balance between family and career, particularly when it comes to women. And this plays a major role. And like someone mentioned, when it says women are career-oriented, that plays a major role in part of the dilemma. It's not that it's wrong to be career-oriented, but if you want to be career-oriented and you want to be very family-oriented, and if a guy is looking for someone who's very family-oriented, it's not easy to overlap these two things. Not everyone can play the role of, Marissa Mayer or someone like that, the CEO of Yahoo, who is like pumping breast milk while she's managing like 50 meetings a day at, Yahoo. She's like an exception to the rule. And people look at her like as a role model, and she's, mashallah, trying to do both and everything. But that's like very difficult for most people to handle. So that could be one of the reasons. And that plays a role. Okay? Anyone else want to comment on this specific one? Yes?
It's another point.
Another point. Okay, let's move. Anyone want to comment on this point? Yes. The point that I was talking about the career-oriented women in particular, and why does it become more challenging when they're career-oriented?
I had another theory not related to that.
Oh, not related to career-oriented. Okay, go ahead. That's fine.
Okay.
Okay, so no family involvement leads to being more picky, I guess. Okay. Because when you have the family involvement is higher, they kind of, guide you towards one and kind of influence you or motivate you, or even sometimes pressure you towards one without necessarily forcing you. That's a different category. Okay, very good. Omar.
And I think actually technology drives this where there's a lack of transparency in information. So for example, one person may be talking to another person and saying, oh, this person's right. That person may be talking to two other people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you don't know whether you're number 2 or number 1.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have this weird, lack of understanding where the other person is in the process versus where you are in the process. You know what I'm saying? So
I see what you're saying. So you're saying because of the technology,
there are almost too many choices with lack of transparency as to where each person is in
too many choices with lack of transparency in terms of where they are. Let's go back to the time prior to technology. So you got a family, the family is going and meeting other people. Did it happen in the past where they would take one person, they go meet one family, and the next week they go meet another family, they meet another family? Wouldn't we have the same lack of transparency in the past as well?
I think so, but I think the technology enables the interaction to happen with less commitment. Right? It's a commitment to go drive.
That's a good point. So less commitment due to technology, where at least in the past you'd have to drive, make some effort, go and meet the family, and eat the food that
That's different than swiping right and left.
It's very different than swiping right and left. Very good. Okay, good point. Yeah.
Just for the ladies, there's an easy way to fix that problem. When you're talking to one person, you want the other person, you should be on the same page. Like, for example, if I talk to someone, I tell them I only talk to one person. As a woman, you could ask the guy the same thing. Like, hey, listen, if you want to talk, I'll talk to one person and one person only. Then you can actually filter that whole problem out. She made a very good point. I agree with you, actually. Share the same values on that. So if I talk to somebody, I'll literally, that's it. That's the only person I talk to. And I'll tell them that, and I'll tell them that's my expectation. So you don't have to sit there and fight for number 3 or 4 or 5, because if the person's on the same page, they actually are thinking the same thing. It just reevaluates your own values. That person, because you at the end of the day, you want them to share that same value anyway.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So again, if you ask the right questions, you can not waste a lot of time.
Okay.
That person's or yours.
Good. Okay. Don't worry about the crying child. He's perfectly fine. He's my son. He probably wants some coffee, and we're not giving him coffee today.
Haphardine has this great feature where you can change your status from active to talking to someone. People do it at the same time.
Okay.
So if I'm talking to somebody who says, okay, can we both change our status to talking to someone? If we both do that, means they're serious.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, so Haphardine, you can change your status to I'm talking to someone. Very good, that's awesome.
Another issue.
As long as you're not emotionally involved, and that's when you switch the status, then you're good. Yes.
Another issue is there's a lot of racism.
Oh, yes. So, where do we put that? Under cultural? Yeah, it was cultural baggage somewhere, right? Force criteria, we could put racism here. Racism / culture. Cultural racism. Cultural discrimination. All right. Good. That's definitely an issue. Yes.
Just 2 points, and both are related to family. So the sister here said, since when there's no family involvement, that could be a problem as well. But having family involved could, benefit the children and whatnot. But the majority, hopefully people can see that the majority of the parent generation, yes, they compromise and whatnot. And how much of dysfunction is in that relationship, and how much do children trust their parents who have lived, their lifetime with a dysfunctional relationship to choose a partner for themselves? One. And secondly, it's going to go back to, mothers raising their children, not wanting to get married or not having the right idea about marriage.
Because of broken families.
Or not.
Or even normal families.
Yes.
So mothers who have perfectly fine marriage will raise their children to not want to get married?
It's a possibility.
Oh, it's a possibility, yeah. Is it something that's common?
Yeah.
Why do you think it is?
I think the attachment of mother to
attachment for mother to the
Mama's
children,
boys.
not wanting to leave, especially if the mother gets older and she feels lonely, especially if she's from another country and she's stuck by herself, no other family surrounding her. She'll want to keep, one of the kids with her.
Psychological baggage surrounds that as well.
Okay, psychological baggage.
Very unrealistic expectations of the daughter-in-law coming in.
Okay.
Which leads to people not being able to get remarried.
So daughter-in-law, unrealistic expectations. Yes, that's a good point. It comes into cultural issues again. All right, very good. Good points. Now, I want to come to this point here about pickiness. Is part of this problem is that people are being overly picky, or are the other ones really, is the issue more a supply of potentials, or is the issue more about pickiness of individuals, right? And this is something we really need to identify, because if the supply is the problem, then we cannot really fix this unless we can just somehow get people more venues and more internet, and that'll increase the communication to get the supply seeming, larger, and then we can resolve this issue. Is that the biggest part of the problem? Or is the biggest part of the problem is that the individuals are too picky? So even if we connect them more, they're still going to be too picky and they're going to reject. So if half our Deen venue goes from 40 to 400, they're still going to look at the 400 and be like, I would only be interested in like 2 or 3. And those 2 or 3 would not be back interested in me. So the whole event fails again. So let's look at this point. Who has some thoughts on this point?
I think it's not the supply. I think our society has moved to objectifying people much more, right? And I think so that's causing people to be more picky. Right?
Okay, so society leads to objectifying. Let's plan that. Okay, so define that. What are they objectifying?
So I think there's a more increased sexualization of society.
Okay.
In the media, in movies, etc. So I think people have there's this feeling that everyone should be looking perfect like what you see on TV.
Right.
Or even beyond that, right? Or everyone should be the perfect Prince Charming.
Right. Everyone needs to be perfect, like the models on the magazines who are photoshopped, and every single. Let me ask you this: how many Hollywood movies are there actors and actresses in there that don't wear makeup? None, right? So if you watch those things on a regular basis, if you look at pictures on a regular basis, if you look at the advertisements on a regular basis, what ends up happening is you think that that's what reality is supposed to look like. But reality doesn't look like that, because reality does not get photoshopped, right? And reality does not get a ton of makeup put on. So what ends up happening now is people are expecting the 10 out of 10 and the perfect person, and the people that they meet, they don't look like that. And this is the biggest problem for guys. Okay, so for guys, I see this all the time. Guys are looking for, like, Mrs. Perfect, right? They're looking for what that actress or that supermodel looks like in the most pious sister, in the most pious package of a sister. So she's got to have that body and that hair and that everything else. But she should, hopefully she should be memorizing the Quran. Maybe she prays Qiyamul Layl, she prays at nighttime Ramadan, she's attending the masjid. So she's got all of that, right? That's what ends up becoming a standard. They're hoping, like, all I'm looking for is a really pious woman who looks like one of these supermodels, right? And that becomes a problem on one perspective, right? Because it's not realistic. One, it's not realistic to find because your standards are too high. And number two, it's not realistic because even if you found that person, you ain't up there, right? So you're not at that level, right? So she most likely would not have picked you. She's also looking for the 10 out of 10 guy, like as well, right? Not just in looks, in terms of everything. So that is problem number one. Problem number two, I'm going to be very honest with you, okay? I'm going to be very straightforward. Problem number two is that sisters who wear hijab Okay, and sisters who cover up more, they have a much lower chance of guys being impressed with their beauty because their beauty is being covered. And this, I'm not advocating not wearing hijab. I'm a big advocate of hijab and all of that, but that's just the reality that you have to deal with. So if you're covering up your beauty, which you should, you know, according to Islamic principle, you should. But what's going to happen is when guys look at you, they're like, I can't tell, like, what is actually, you know, I can't tell if, I'm telling you, I have guys telling me this for the last 10, 15 years. They're like, this sister, I think she's really, you know, she looks really good. She has good character. Everything else is looking good. And I remember one guy came to me and he goes, but she wears such loose clothing, I can't tell if she's fit or not fit. And I just can't figure it out. So how am I supposed to figure it out? You know, and that becomes a challenge, right? Now, of course, he shouldn't only be looking at that, but it's important for that guy, okay? It's important for that guy, for the sister to be on the same page in terms of importance of fitness. This is a guy who runs and he works out and he's in shape and he was a good brother. He didn't live in this country. He was one of my friends from Belgium, and he had this problem. And he says, look, I like to work out and, you know, I like to be healthy and everything, but you can't ask the sister, how much do you weigh? You know, you can't ask the sister, do you exercise? And you can't, he said, and the sister used to wear her hijab like lower like this. He's like, I can't see much. And he said, I'm just curious. You know, I wonder what it, you know, what it would be like. So guys look for that by nature much more than women. Okay, this is the reality. Guys are more interested, or they're more motivated by the visual than women are. And this is just, something that's proven. That's why men spend a lot more money to look at women than women would spend money to look at men in reality. You look at how many magazines sell and how many, you know, strip clubs and all of that stuff, right, that exists. You don't find it vice versa, even in a much less patriarchal society, right? So there's a different aspect there. So that plays a role. Now the part of the problem, I'm not saying I'm identifying a problem. I'm not saying sisters, you know, should take off their hijab or they're to blame. The men technically are to blame, but it's a reality. And you have to identify that reality and you say, okay, how can we work around that? So there's some workarounds, by the way. So Muslim Match is one of those websites that actually realized this. And what they did was they put in, when we talked about religiosity, they put in levels of religiosity. They said, what is your level of religiosity? And then they defined it. Who knows, who remembers what they were? I haven't been there in a long time. I'm sure it's updated. Does anybody know? So they used to have, I'm thinking from like 10 years back or something, they used to have different categories of pray 5 times a day, Islam is the most important thing in my life, pray sometimes, that's religiosity. When it comes to being fit and exercise and all of that, they would say, what is your opinion and perspective on health, fitness, and like exercise and things like that? And they have different levels that indicate in a very respectful way of saying, this is what, you know, this is what what's important to me. And then what you do is you have all these things and you rate your levels